Good morning, everyone. You know, I am particularly glad I can speak to you this morning because in my many years as an industry analyst, I have found one thing. People are often afraid of industry analysts. You know, not in the Jack the Ripper kind of way afraid, but in the way of, oh my God, this guy is now going to bore me to death for the next half hour with his data and figures. So, instead, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to ease you into the subject gently. I'm going to show you two video clips. And in between those two video clips, I'm even going to have a quiz for you. So let's take it away. This is the first clip.
Perhaps the professor could use your computer. Please.
Computer? Computer? Hello, computer.
Just use the keyboard.
The keyboard. How quaint.
All right, so as of course everybody in this room knows, this is from the movie Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. But now it's time for our quiz, so hang on a second. So I actually have a prize for this quiz. So this is a very rare, very valuable Star Trek Pez Collector's Series item. It's worth about $20. So whoever answers my question correctly first, that's going to come now, is going to win this prize. The question is, from what year is this movie? Just throw out some years. Go ahead. Sorry, what?
88.
Very close, but not quite. More.
83.
83, 89. It's the 80s. You're good at 80s. Go ahead. More. 86. Where was it? 86. That's the correct answer, sir. You win this prize. Tracy, would you be so kind? Thank you. So, excellent. Give him a hand for this excellent knowledge of Star Trek trivia. It's quite of astounding, really. So thank you very much. So that's the first clip. The second clip I'm going to show you is a commercial, actually, for Amazon's Echo device, the one that Brian just talked about. And it'll feature Alec Baldwin, who you know, and it'll also feature a gentleman called Dan Marino, who you don't know. But I should add that he's one of the most famous, considered to be one of the best quarterbacks in U.S. history, despite the fact that he never won a Super Bowl championship. So let's take it away.
And watch this. Alexa, turn on the lights.
Wow.
Breaded wings? You're blowing it, bro.
Alexa, how many championships has Dan Marino won?
Dan Marino has won 0 championships.
Alexa, how many Oscars has Alec Baldwin won?
Alec Baldwin has won 0.
Alexa, stop.
So as these videos show, we have come a long way. So 1986, that was exactly 30 years ago. So 30 years ago, a computer being able to understand human language, that was just as much a piece of science fiction as the warp drive still is. And today, natural language processing is everywhere. Now, natural language processing is just one of several new technologies that are beginning to change consumers' lives. You know, there's natural language generation, where my navigation app on my smartphone tells me when to take the next turn. There is machine learning, when Siri actually eventually figures out my German accent and it figures out what I really meant to say. You know, there's predictive power when Netflix figures out, you know, the next movie I want to see. Now, all of these technologies all fall under the headline of cognitive technology, and cognitive technology is enables computers to gather and understand knowledge without human intervention. Now, we at IDC think that cognitive technology will change consumers' lives fundamentally over the next few years, actually faster than we all think it will. Let me just give you one example. We think that in a few years in the major cities, we'll see the beginnings of self-driving car networks, where many people will not even own cars anymore. Instead, when they need one, they're just going to order one. It's going to pull up to their front door, no driver. They're going to get in. It's going to take them wherever they want to go, with huge implications for how we live our lives, but also for the economy, for culture, even for the design of our cities. I could go on with the list. I could talk about drones. I could talk about robots. There's more examples. But above all, what's going to change with cognitive technology is our expectations of how we interact with computers. We will expect to interact with them casually, with natural language, just like you would with another human being. We'll expect for computing power to be present at all times, in any place. We'll expect computers to be all-knowing about the world at large and about us. Now, because consumers' lives are going to change fundamentally, so marketing will have to change fundamentally. Life will be faster. It will be more complex. There will be more channels for marketers to manage, to reach out to consumers. So it's going to be harder and more complicated to reach consumers. And if that's not enough of a challenge for you, you're also going to have to take care of 3 new tasks. Namely, you'll have to provide more value to customers, to better customers, and you have to do so faster. So let's take these 3 one by one. So first of all, you have to provide more value. So just reaching out to a customer and delivering a message, that's not good enough anymore. Instead, what you need to do, you need to provide actual value, actual utility to those customers. And you need to do so custom-tailored for every single individual. Secondly, you have to provide that added value to better customers. So just converting a prospect into a customer, that's not good enough anymore. Instead, you will have to convert those prospects that have the highest lifetime value for your clients. And thirdly, you have to do so faster to stand out and be more competitive. Now, all of these things will require that we know a lot about those customers. We need to have, in other words, a lot of data about them. A lot of these data will not be static data sets anymore. Instead, they will be live data streams that just come at us all the time, and we will have to analyze them in real time to make sense of them. So the first take-home for you really is the future of marketing is about data, really. It's not about media anymore. So data will be central to everything we do in this industry. And then the next question, of course, is if I have to analyze vast amounts of data, often live data streams in real time, how do I even pull it off that I can create those 1 in a million moments for every single one of my customers, every single moment of every day all around the world? Well, fortunately, cognitive technology, which created those challenges and those opportunities in the first place, will also provide the tools for us to handle these challenges and, even take advantage of them. They will. That's what cognitive marketing is really all about. It's about applying cognitive technology to marketing purposes. Cognitive marketing is about using algorithmic intelligence for the real-time analysis of vast amounts of data to provide personalized consumer engagement. Now, let's put things in perspective. So, Brian mentioned this already. Until very recently, programmatic advertising, that's really the state of the art, or was the state of the art. And as you know, it's really mostly about media purchasing still, and about the optimization of the costs thereof. There's some targeting, but it's not all that great, actually. So that's where we were until very recently. Next will be programmable marketing, as Brian said. So that's going to be about real-time data. It's going to be about partner ecosystems, and it's going to be about learning algorithms. We're going to be a lot smarter how we use data to get our job done. And then The farther away future, 2020 could be a good pick for a year when this actually takes place, is cognitive marketing. And cognitive marketing is, as I said, about applying intelligent algorithms for the real-time analysis of vast data amounts to provide those 1 in a million moments for every single one of your customers. So, this very confusing chart, which I will readily admit, is IDC's ecosystem of cognitive technology. And I'm not going to go into the details here, but I really only want to point out two things. So at the periphery of this chart, you see all the actual applications of cognitive technology going forward, of which marketing is only one. There's also sales, there's customer support, there's research and development, there's finance. Now, all of these applications will draw on a shared common set of services at the center of this ecosystem, where it says, cognitive software platforms. So they're all drawn on the same resources, essentially. And it's also an open ecosystem, those shared resources. And what that means for marketers is there's two implications. So the first implication is that you'll be able to draw on data from other corporate functions now. For instance, from customer support. So, quick question. So who of you called up customer support over the last week because something went wrong? Who called them up? Who went away frustrated? Hands up. There must be more frustrated people. Yeah, it's like a dozen or so. Same happened to me the other day with AT&T. I called them up, was stood up twice in a week by the installation guy. I was really mad about it. And AT&T's marketing has no clue I'm upset about them. That's where we are today. They have no idea what's going on. And that's going to change going forward. So you know things about your customers that you didn't know in the past, which will make it easier for you to do your job. So that's number one. Number two, because it's an open ecosystem, it'll be much easier for you to partner with other companies, and it'll even be possible for you to branch out into other business fields. So more opportunity through the use of cognitive technology. Now, we already have a lot of data. But when the Internet of Things goes consumer, we are going to have a lot more data. So these three things are good examples. Google's self-driving car for self-driving cars, the Fitbit for wearables, the Nest thermostat for home automation. Now, when the Internet of Things goes consumer, what that means is that everyday devices will turn into data sensors. Not just these dedicated devices, but also your fridge and a milk bag, a chair. And what that means in reality is that everything we do, everything we feel, every breath we take, every step we take, every heartbeat will be recorded in real time. And so it's going to be much more intimate data collection than before. It's going to be much more complete, too. It's going to give us, as marketers, a lot more information about our customers. Of course, with all the implications that come there with protection of privacy and all that. But we're going to have a lot more data. In fact, there will be a lot more data. So this is IDC's chart, our forecast of how much data there will be going forward. And it actually shows the amount of data created worldwide on an annualized basis between today, basically, and 2020. And it's measured in so-called zettabytes. And if you're interested in knowing what a zettabyte is, it's 1 trillion gigabytes. We think that the amount of data being created going forward over the next 5 years is going to more than quadruple. So last year we generated, as humankind, we generated about 9 zettabytes, and in 2020 it's going to be 44 zettabytes. And now the next question is, well, what is 44 zettabytes, right? So 44 zettabytes, it just happens to be 44 times the number of stars in the Milky Way. So it's a lot of data. Of course, when you have such a lot of data, it creates an interesting dilemma. If you know everything about everyone, how much can you do? Where do you stop? So we're going to do a little thought experiment. So this is a list of the data types, items that a random wearable like the Fitbit, for instance, can already track, and a couple of them which they soon will be able to track. And now let's just have a little thought experiment. What happens if for every single one of those data items we send them an ad? So let's say the guy's totally overweight, obviously. So we're going to send them an ad for Weight Watchers. The lady feeds herself exclusively on potato chips, so maybe lean cuisine is the ticket for her. Your lack of exercise, Gold's Gym is the ticket for you. Sleep quality is lousy, take Ambien. It's lunchtime, go to McDonald's. Let's say you have a little bit of a fever and a cough, Dayquil and NyQuil is going to be your savior. Blood sugar levels are off, well, either you should see your doctor, or maybe a big fat Snickers bar is your solution. Your heart rate is constantly elevated, well, maybe you're up for a vacation. You're passing by the local Starbucks, well, we're going to give you 50 pence off the next cup of coffee. Now, this is a lot of advertising, and you already know where this is ending, right? I mean, this is where it ends. It ends with consumers, installing ad blockers and using them. Now, I think ad blockers are actually really interesting because it's consumers really telling us loud and clear, what you guys are showing me, I don't want to see because I don't care about this stuff. And I don't know about the IAB UK, but the IAB US is very vocal in condemning ad blockers and fighting ad blockers. And I suppose that's a fight that we need to fight. It's a fight that we need to fight. But what I think is more important, that as an industry, we need to understand that it's really strictly a rearguard battle. It's a rearguard fight. So it's a losing battle. Instead, what we need to do as an industry is we have to look forward, and we have to become much smarter about how we use data so that we can give customers exactly the pieces of information that they want to see. In other words, we need to turn advertising into content. And with cognitive technology, we will be able to do that. So ad blocking is one example for how cognitive marketing is not going to work. So I'm just going to show you, 2 or 3 examples of early applications of cognitive marketing technology. One is live event monetization, where using geofencing, you identify superfans, and you can market to them right at the event or post-event. There's attribution. It's the early days of attribution, but eventually we're going to be able to close the feedback loop between the performance even of brand campaigns and have more or less live feedback into optimization for that campaign. There are chatbots where they can do any number of functions, customer support, or even selling items without having to go through tedious forms and filling them all out. So these are just some examples of the kind of applications that we're going to see. So, but to close, the most important question for you, of course, is, well, what does it all mean for me? How is my job going to change? How can I prepare for this new world of cognitive marketing? And I think the answer is that we all have to become a little bit more of a super intelligent marketer, which really means we have to kind of stick the toe into the water of this new technology, start to play around with it, even before the next budget cycle, and we have to all become a little bit more of data scientists. So here are 4 new job profiles that we think at IDC will spring up with the advent of cognitive marketing. So one is the data-driven marketer. So that's the guy who has the business oversight of any given campaign. The second one is the data scientist. So that's the person who is a math guy, stats guy, numbers guy, who is going to be in charge of doing the actual analyses of data, coming up with predictive models, coming up with those algorithms that Brian was referring to. The data engineer is going to be the person who takes care of the infrastructure that's needed for cognitive marketing, so that it hums away and doesn't come crashing down just because a hard drive goes up in smoke. And finally, there's going to be the marketing technologist, who is going to make sure that the infrastructure that's needed for cognitive marketing smoothly interacts with the infrastructure that's needed for the entire enterprise, thinking back to those shared services. So, to summarize, cognitive technology will change consumers' lives in very fundamental ways, and it's going to change it faster than we think it's going to change it. For marketers, the good news is that the same technology is going to help us to take advantage of that new world of consumers' lives. A good first step to ease yourself into this new world is to make this transition from programmatic to programmable, because that's going to be a stepping stone to this new world of cognitive marketing that's 4 or 5 years away. And finally, we all got to be a little bit more of a super intelligent marketer. It's going to be an exciting new world, lots of opportunity for all of us, and the time to act is now. Thank you very much.